Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Hola, hola. ¿Cómo estás? The last video, in my last video, I had a lot of Spanish. Well, not a lot, but I was counting in Spanish. And for some reason, my channel started getting a lot of subscribers all of a sudden. So I'm guessing my audience are Hispanics. So, hola to all of you. ¿Cómo estás? I hope you're doing great. I'm just joking. I have no idea if that's the case. Statistics show that no, that's not the case. But I've noticed that YouTube stats can be incorrect too, so who knows? But anyways, I would love to hear where you guys are from, okay? And also thank you so much for subscribing, okay? I really do appreciate it. And I'm really happy that, you're enjoying my content. I will try to make my content less dry because I do not like dry content myself, And yeah, I think most of us, we want to watch something interesting, right? Something entertaining also. But of course, at the same time, it is really also about the idea, right? And the things that we are actually talking about, right? And so I think there has to be this good balance, between, it's funny because what I discovered is that the things that I like to talk about, right, I don't get too many views on that, and which is kind of sad, right? So ultimately I decided to kind of mix up my content, and my kind of my ideas, right, mix them up and talk about subjects that most people like or a lot of people like, right, and talk about subjects that I personally like, and I think that the ones that I think are very important for us to hear as people, So, and I think also, by mixing up that kind of a content, right, I think what I will do is I will ultimately attract more people onto my channel, right? And then hopefully they will be more enticed to, after seeing some of the titles that I have, right? Some other videos, hopefully they'll be enticed into watching them too, So this is kind of like my goal, and that's what I want to do. I think, as I think a lot of my videos do have a lot of truth in them, and I think, over the years I learned a lot, right? And so I want to share that knowledge, and I want to speak about the truth. As, the devil, it is a spiritual war, guys, right? And the devil doesn't want the truth to get out, He wants things to stay the same, to stay stagnant. He wants for people to be miserable, right? And I think we should, all rise above this, And that's my ultimate goal, I'm not here to, I don't even want to really, sometimes I will share what I'm going through, and that's because I think the human experience is so diverse, right? It's never the same. It's never what you see on Instagram, right? On Instagram, everything seems so perfect, right? And polished. And to an extent, there is nothing wrong with that, right? Because ultimately we want to see that's something that we want to see, right? But at the same time, I think Instagram maybe would be better off if it was balanced, right? I know that a lot of people use TikTok to trauma dump, basically, right? And so we have other platforms for that, right? So it's kind of interesting that we choose certain platforms for certain things, So to show off our best life, we use Instagram, right? To trauma dump and share our pain, we choose TikTok, right? Even though I personally don't have TikTok, right? And I will also make a video later on, discussing this and why I don't really use social media that much, okay? I used to have it, but not so much anymore. I basically just use YouTube, But I will discuss this in another video, okay? But anyways, back to this, right? So I think that this video is actually all about that, developing that, rather than seeing things in black and white, right? I think we should develop this. I think my kid is gonna come. I think we should learn to see things from learn to see the gray areas too, you know, the gray areas of life, right? And and the reason why I wanted to kind of discuss this, right, is because, well, first of all, I think that the black and white thinking comes from also perfectionist, right? Perfectionist and inability to see our own kind of faults, right? Inability to see our own imperfections, right? Inability to face our own shadows, basically, right? And so in order to heal, right, we have to integrate everything, right? The good and the bad, right? And we have to face our shadows, right? We have to face what we don't want to see in ourselves and what we tend to project out onto others, you know. And so I think this is extremely important, and it's an essential step towards healing, right, for people, right? And so there's that, right? But I think also a perfectionist, right? It comes from it's a trauma response, okay? It's a way that we used, or it's something that we developed to cope with trauma, right? Out of fear or out of uncertainty, right? And so, you know, oh, we have to be perfect, right? So we don't get attacked by our parents, right? We have to be perfect so nobody sees that fragile side of us, right? We have to be perfect. And so I think as a society, we're dealing with a lot of that. And the issue with this is that when we think that we are perfect, right, or when we're unable to see our imperfections or even accept them, right, we're not really able to accept those imperfections in other people either, okay? So we tend to think in blacks and whites, right? We think, okay, this person did something wrong, right? They're imperfect, that's it, right? They're this kind of person, and then bam, we place a label on them, right? Like same applies, you know, like for example, parents judge other parents a lot more often than not, right? And so, and they can sometimes judge other people very harshly, right? And so maybe they see something outside, right? Maybe the kiddo isn't behaving well, right? Or maybe he's throwing a tantrum, right? And so you know, we automatically assume that maybe it's the parents' fault, right? Or little do we know that maybe the kid is tantruming over not getting a cookie, right? Because he, I don't know, maybe before that, you know, he kicked, right? He kicked the parent or something, or he did something that doesn't deserve that cookie, basically, right? And so the people don't see the entire picture. Do you know what I mean? They don't see what happens in behind closed doors, you know. So we tend to judge others harshly, you know. You can even see this playing out on TikTok, right? Like for example, you might see a clip, right? And but you never see what's behind the scenes, right? So in your mind, you're creating your own images, you're creating your own story based on that thing that you're just seeing on YouTube, right? Or on Instagram or on TikTok, right? You're just creating your own scenarios basically without knowing or understanding the entire situation, okay? And so that's very unfair. Do you know what I mean? So you're basically creating those stories, right? Or those you're judging something without having all the details. So that's unfair, right? If you want to be scientific about it, you need to know the entire story, and you can't possibly know the entire story unless you're living with that family or with those people, right? Unless you've seen the entire situation play out and you know these people and you know where they're coming from, and you know, so it's impossible to do, right? It's just impossible. So oftentimes we judge, right? And we're judging based on our assumptions, based on our biases about people, you know, based on our own prejudices, you know, based on our own sexism even, you know, racism, I don't know, whatever, right? So it's really unfair to other people. It's unfair to judge. It's unfair to just look at a tiny detail, right, in someone else's life or in someone else's situation, and then, you know, bam, automatically judge them for being a bad parent, maybe, right, or being a certain way, right, being mean, being angry, I don't know, right, whatever, right. But anyways, I think this comes from a place of, you know, uh, it comes from a place of not accepting our own imperfections, you know. It comes from a place of ignorance too, to an extent, right? It comes from a place, but mostly it comes from a trauma, you know. It comes from a trauma, okay, that we've experienced early on in our lives. And, you know, now this trauma is kind of like playing out, right? And it's, you know, once again, we have to learn to, first of all, accept our imperfections, right? And learn to see the gray areas, and learn to understand that we don't have the whole picture. We can't possibly judge. We don't have that right to judge other people, okay, and what they're going through. Many of us are facing really like extreme challenges in our lives, right? We're all going through something. I've never met a single person that's not going through something difficult, you know. And so it's unfair to judge, and then not only are you doing these people a disservice by judging them harshly, right, but you might even start like talking about them, right, behind their back. And you might even, you know, oh, did you see this person? She's so this and this and that, right? And before you know it, all of this spreads, right? And then you've slandered that person's name, right? You've slandered that person's name, and they're innocent. You know, you don't know them really even. You don't know them up close, you know. This kind of happened to me in my town, you know. And I'm just really like, I've heard certain things about myself, right, from like other people, just random people that I've met in a hotel, right, while having like tea, right, and I was like, what? You know. And so after hearing something, you know, I was like, okay, yeah, I understood where this was coming from, right? But these people, once again, they just made assumptions. They saw you, they made assumptions, and voila, right? The news spread, right? And suddenly you're the bad guy, you're the villain, right? When in fact, they don't know anything about you. They don't know you. They don't know you personally, you know? So before judging, always get to know other people, okay? And learn to accept your own imperfections about yourself, because by accepting the imperfections, right, about yourself, you can actually accept the imperfections in other people, okay? We're all imperfect beings, right? I don't know, I forgot the saying in the Bible, right? But I think it's like, let he who I forgot. It was something about a stone, right? So let he who like never did something wrong, right, cast the first stone, or something like that, right? I'm sorry, you can correct me at that if you like. I really do need to get into my Bible, okay? But yes, it was something like that, right? But so yes, it was basically talking about that none of us are perfect, okay? So technically none of us should be throwing a stone, because we can't. We're not. We all have faults, right? We all have emotions, right? And we all make mistakes. And and it's okay to make mistakes as long as you're learning from them, right? As long as you're acknowledging them, as long as you can do better next time, right? And that's what matters, right? It's not about being perfect. It's not about, you know, judging other people, right? It's not about pretending that you're perfect even, okay? It's really about integrating that shadow self, you know. It's about learning how to embrace your imperfections, and it's about learning how to do better when you do make those mistakes, right? Oftentimes also what ends up happening is we end up beating ourselves up over making mistakes, right? Like you start name calling yourself, you start, you know, becoming very sad, right? You start, I don't know, you start basically, you know, you start you know, putting yourself down, right, for making mistakes. But you really shouldn't, you know. Like I said, you are, in a way, right, the way that God has created everything, right, the fact that we're God's creations, right, we are perfect, we're perfectly made, right, but we're not perfect in a way that we will sin, right? And so and we will make mistakes, right? We will act out of our anger. We will sometimes not control, you know, certain emotions, not be in not be able to control certain emotions, right? And then, of course, if you're a good person, right, if you're a conscious person, you're going to recognize that you lost control, and you're going to apologize, right, to whomever you maybe hurt, right? And so there's that, right? Or, you know, it can have, it doesn't just have to do with emotions, right? But it has to do with everything, right? And so it's really just about acknowledging that you are an imperfect being, you know, like you're an imperfect in a way that you will make mistakes, right? And it's okay to make those mistakes as long as you do better next time, right? Like I said before. And so I think this is important, right? And also, if you do have children, one exercise, right, that I've read about that's really, really interesting, and you know, it's, I think it's important, and it can also even help you, right? Is to teach your children to also embrace their mistakes and imperfections, you know, and actually to even celebrate making mistakes, because by making mistakes, by being imperfect, that's how we learn, right? And so I'm still having trouble with this myself, you know, but I'm trying to do better, right? Um, yeah, there's that, right? Also, so try to celebrate making mistakes with your kids, you know. That's I think that's something that's pretty good. It just teaches them and show them your imperfections too, you know. Your kids are not going to judge you, you know. They're going to actually learn that by seeing you making mistakes, they're going to learn that their own mistakes are okay to make too, you know. So yeah, I think I'm just done here, guys. You know, just you know, once again, right? Just learn that, you know, learn to see things not in black and white. Everything has two sides to it too, right? Everything has two sides. You know, being a single mom, right? Having a family, right? Or having a, you know, a father and a dad in the family, right? Being childless, right? Not being childless, right? I don't know, you know, how men treat women, how women treat women, men versus women, right? Everything has two sides, okay? Everything has two sides. And so always remember this, right? There's so much content that's on YouTube right now that doesn't acknowledge the other side, you know? It just shows you one side, one perspective, and that's it, you know. And so just always remember that there are always two sides. There's a good and a bad side, right? And also, really, it's what we choose to see, right? And there's something somewhere in between too, right? And so it's what we choose to see. It's what we choose to focus on, right? And so you don't believe in the statements that such as all men are bad, right? All women are bad. I don't know, she is all bad, he is all bad, right? No, that is never the case. Every human being has some good in them. Every human being has some good traits, has some bad traits that they need to work on, right? Maybe they're not working on them, maybe they are, right? So yeah, learn to see things not from a black and white perspective, but rather from, learn to see the gray areas in life, right? Or the colorful areas in life, if you want to call it that. I don't know, right? But anyway, so thank you so much for watching, guys. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much to all of my new subscribers. Thank you for subscribing, and I really do appreciate that. And I will see you guys soon. Okay, bye.